There we go. Welcome back. Welcome to night two, presentation number two of Fall Education Week. Night two, presentation two of Fall Education Week. And it is my distinct honor to introduce John LaBore. He has been a member of Greenfield Toastmasters for more than 12 years, recently completed all the requirements for his Distinguished Toastmaster Award. Give that up for John. Way to go. Congratulations. He has served multiple times as club president and has also served as VP of Membership, VP of Public Relations, and Secretary for his club. He served as Area 32 governor during the 2014-15 year. You know it was a couple of years ago because it was a governor and not a director. And he has won both club and area speaking contests. More recently, he served as a club co-sponsor with Tricia Fox for the new Toastmasters Club that chartered in Noblesville in June 2020. The White River Word Millers Club. That is always a tongue tire. John is an Eli Lilly retiree, and in recent years, he has served as a consultant to numerous companies and in volunteer roles for several nonprofit organizations. Please give it up for John LaBore and his presentation, Pandemic, Perfect Time to Start Toastmasters. Please help me welcome future DTM John LaBore.
Scott, thank you. Wow, what a difference between the first week of March and now. Fellow Toastmasters, like many of you, if not all of you, that first week of March, I did not have much of a clue what was about to change in my life and all of our lives over the coming weeks and months. I had just started a new consulting gig, had spent 4 days on site over in Cincinnati, and had just received the organization's laptop. I was told as I headed out for the weekend that I should probably take the laptop and any materials with me because there was a chance we might be told to stay home and work from there the first part of the following week. And yes, that weekend I got the email that said the plan to stay home for at least the first couple of days the following week. Little did I know that I was about to do the entire 6-month consulting gig completely remote and would never see that office nor my colleagues in person again. Maybe, from their point of view, that was a good thing. This pandemic has had a lot of negative things. Millions of people sick, hundreds of thousands have died, and many people that have had the virus are still having after effects, even though they have recovered from it initially. Children have had to be schooled at home, and many parents have had to juggle the challenge of working from home while being their children's teacher as well. People have had to distance themselves from other members of their family, especially older members, that appeared, based on the early evidence, to have worse outcomes if they contracted the virus. And yes, practically overnight, all Toastmasters clubs stopped meeting in person and clubs switched to online virtual meetings and rapidly learned a new word, Zoom. Not to mention that other word, Zoom bombing. Toastmasters, I'm going to tell you a brief story. Bear with me if there is a point I will be making at the end of the story. Note that I am leaving out a few details in order to maintain operational security. Any of you with any military history in your family will know why. I'm very proud to be the father of a U.S. Marine Corps officer. My son commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps 2 years ago after graduating from college in Texas. I'm also glad that he found, while in college, an intelligent and beautiful young woman that agreed to marry him. Olivia is now a second-year law student. Last year, they started planning for a very large wedding to take place in May of this year in her hometown in Texas. One of the things I want to do is take a moment just to salute any of the Marines in the meeting tonight. As today, November 10th, is the 245th birthday of the Marine Corps. And I also want to salute any veterans of any branch due to Veterans Day being tomorrow. Now, unfortunately, all that wedding planning they did went for naught, as the COVID-19 situation led the military in April to put a domestic travel restriction on all the military through the end of June. So the May wedding was postponed until July 4th. But then a serious COVID-19 outbreak in South Texas the last part of June led them to postpone once again, this time to a date sometime in 2021. My son was scheduled to deploy overseas in mid-August. They made a decision that they wanted to be married before he left. So they had just a small private weekday ceremony in the base chapel with only one of my son's fellow military officers and the officer's wife present as witnesses. The good news is that they are both happy. And even though none of the parents were present, we were all very happy for them. And the father of the groom saved a lot of money, as you can imagine. The point I'm going to make about all this was summed up in a very timely message that just went out from the Commandant of the Marine Corps this morning. He said, if there were a watchword for 2020, the short list would certainly include change, uncertainty, and adaptation. This new dynamic, uncertain environment has impacted how we recruit and train Marines, deploy aboard ship, and even how we honor our Corps' hallowed traditions. But adapting to change and uncertainty is nothing new for Marines. It is what we have done for 245 years and what is expected of us as the nation's force in readiness. Where others see challenges, Marines see opportunities. We will always be ready to answer the nation's call, no matter the crisis. Fellow Toastmasters, there is an old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And the twist that came our way actually made this period a near perfect time to start Toastmasters or continue in Toastmasters. Why? Because there are tangible to each member, even old members, interesting new opportunities for clubs, and surprisingly, ways for Toastmasters to bring value to businesses and organizations in ways they perhaps never expected. During this speech, I'm going to tell you about those member benefits, those club opportunities, and the value proposition for businesses and organizations. Why is this a perfect time for someone to start or continue Toastmasters? Clubs are all meeting virtually. Thus, new members can theoretically join from anywhere in the world. And we just had a little discussion about that in the last session. And participate just as much and as actively as any member located close to the club physical location. As a case in point, our new club, the White River Word Miller Club, physically located in Noblesville, had been in the process of finding people interested in becoming charter members in September 2019. By March 2020, after many weeks of weekly meetings, We had 16 applications in hand when the pandemic hit, and our venue, the public library conference room, closed down. Thankfully, our existing group quickly made a switch to virtual meetings and did not really miss a beat. By not skipping a beat and successfully making the transition to virtual meetings, we secured the applications of 2 people that had previously attended the in-person meetings. Then a couple of us were talking with friends that were interested in Toastmasters, but actually live near downtown Indianapolis. So traveling out to the in-person meetings might have been a challenge each week, but attending virtually was a piece of cake. They connected into a couple of our meetings and subsequently made a commitment to join. Thus, our club hit the 20-member charter membership minimum a couple of months after the start of the pandemic, and our charter was submitted in May and granted in June. Meeting virtually, we actually landed those 2 charter members that might not have joined otherwise. And since July, we have had 2 more new members join, both located a bit further away than most of our current members, and several others that have participated in our virtual meetings and are considering joining at this point. Now, I do want to back up a little and congratulate those that were in the core group of our club that made the transition from in-person to virtual meetings. Multiple people stepped up to handle the technology situation and get it right, including resolving a Zoom bombing that occurred during our 4th or 5th online meeting. Quick action was taken to shut down that meeting session, and changes were made by the next meeting to eliminate the possibility of that happening again. The other thing that our core group did was to make sure agendas were sent out before each meeting and that meeting timings were adhered to so that meetings did not run too long or too short. For many members, this is important as it ensures the time commitment is as expected. What else happened that benefited club members? For one thing, the Toastmasters International Organization made a decision that directly affected our members, and that was that they allowed the completion of the Advanced Leaders Silver and DTM Awards that might get tripped up by the change to virtual meetings caused by the pandemic, due to a specific requirement being difficult to complete by the end of June under pandemic conditions. Thus, they extended the deadline for completion of ALS and DTM under the legacy program by 1 year. 2 of our experienced members that joined our new club will now be able to complete their DTM award, whereas previously one would have cut it close and the other it would have been impossible. The second thing is that TI decided to grant a free pathway to new and current members. This is a nice value and increases the probability that more members will actively work toward earning certification and completing their DTMs under the Pathways Education Program. Third, our district leadership made the move to online training for officers. And in fact, this entirely virtual fall education conference is not only a well-structured substitute, thank you, Scott, but makes it possible for more people to attend by not having to travel physically to a meeting site. And since all sessions are recorded, they will actually be available for others not having the time free to connect live to these sessions. Members have also learned lots of new skills that were not part of the repertoire during in-person meetings, and you'll see this on your screen right now. We have all learned how to connect into and navigate our way through Zoom sessions. We have learned a lot about things, such as making sure our backgrounds behind us are appropriate, and some of us have even learned how to use a virtual background image against a green backdrop. Some of us have learned how to use color templates for green, yellow, and red in our virtual backgrounds as part of the timing process. And all of us have learned to be prepared to unmute and mute ourselves as need be, right? We've also learned we need to adjust when giving presentations when typically we are only visible as heads. And as I'm doing in this presentation, how to present on-screen visual aids such as PowerPoint slides through the Zoom session. Everyone has become more familiar with the Zoom sessions. It also makes it easier for a member to visit other clubs, and that's something that we were just talking about in the previous session. All that one has to do is contact the other club and get the Zoom session info to connect into another club meeting. No driving, no finding the club meeting place on a dark night or a cold morning. As the old phone company ad said, you can let your fingers do the walking. How many people remember the movie The Intern that came out around 2014? Show of hands. Anybody? I remember watching that movie, and there was one part at that time that made me go, wow, that is different. And that was the online interview that the characters played by Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson had with the staff at Google. Yet I found that nearly all interviews that I have about potential gigs in the 3 years prior to the pandemic were online Skype calls. Earlier this year, I went through a real battery of an online interview for one organization that included not just one-on-one Skype and Zoom calls with interviewers, but several interviews in a group interview multiple times, plus an online 20-minute presentation to a large group on a Zoom call on a topic that the organization selected. Thus, the online meeting framework for Toastmasters is great training to be better prepared for those online interviews. From a club standpoint, the pandemic required our club to embrace the digital world. This includes not just the capabilities of the Texas Toastmasters International website, such as making sure the Find a Club information is current, but also having a Facebook page and web page. Last year, as we were starting the new Noblesville Club, we found Meetup to be a really amazing way to get into the awareness of new members. More new guests finding us for the first time came through Meetup than any other online method. We are also using EasySpeak now, and it is a great way to keep track of who is doing what in meetings. There are many other online venues such as Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and others to get the word out. Do as many as the team in your club can handle, but be sure to keep everything updated. Clubs also have a great opportunity to innovate. Our club and the Brick Street Club in Zionsville that meet the same night at the same time have had a couple of mixers. And how this works is that one meeting, all of their members connect into our meeting. And members from each club take half the roles in the meeting. And speech evaluators are from the other club than the speaker is in. Then at an agreed upon later meeting, all our members connect into the other club's regular meeting, and roles again are split between the two clubs. This makes it much more interesting and brings quite a few new people into the meetings to keep things fresh. Our two clubs have agreed to have a mixture meeting during one meeting per month going forward, and I know all our members look forward to that meeting. Club members should also consider inviting other members and members of other clubs that meet at different times to join their club meetings. The more in a meeting, the merrier. Likewise, encourage your fellow club members to visit the meetings of other clubs online and bring back good ideas. I think it was John that was talking about in the last session how no club is the same. And lots of clubs do things a little bit different, and you might find something you really want to pick up and start doing. Another thing that can happen is not just club members visiting from other clubs, but Toastmasters from all over the world. Just last month, our club was visited by a young lady from a club in Singapore, and she had requested to present a speech. Her speech was outstanding, and compared to how we had been doing it, she actually stood in front of her computer camera so we could see more of her gestures while she was giving the speech. That certainly helped us realize we did not have to just sit while giving presentations. Another innovation that we have done several times is to do an improv session in lieu of table topics. In this, someone starts a story, then stops and names another club member to continue the made-up story. This continues for several members until a table topic time is used up. It is a very different way to use this time, and it can be very interesting. We have our club president, Patty Pickfont, who is thanked for bringing this up because she actually went through improv training and was able to bring this to our club and demonstrate how it could work. Her punishment, of course, after doing that was that she got elected club president. So there you go. Be careful what you bring to the club. Finally, clubs should take care of some basics with guests that are potential new members. When the regular meeting is over, the club president, the vice president of membership, and the vice president of education should stay online and converse with the guests, asking questions to find out what they are wanting out of Toastmasters and listening to their responses carefully. Afterwards, after the online session is over, the officers should make sure the guests are emailed information about Toastmasters, how it works, meeting roles, the icebreaker speech guide, the membership application, and similar items. In effect, this should be the item normally in a physical guest packet that you would hand guests at your meeting. Finally, what is the value for businesses and organizations? Interestingly, with so much of the business world moving to the online virtual meetings, there is now a convergence of how Toastmasters is working and the business world is working. That is, everyone is online and visible. Likewise, the skills we are gaining in this virtual world of Toastmasters are now the ones directly needed in virtual business meetings. Employees now actually often see themselves in their business meetings, and their self-perceptions are more accurate, and it is easier for them to see what needs to improve. And of course, a big selling point for Toastmasters is that return on investment is high, and it is ongoing, allowing people to keep practicing until they significantly improve and then perfect their art. And another thing that we should consider is that staff working nonstop from home are likely starting to burn out. There was quite an article in the Wall Street Journal just the other day about this problem. Toastmasters can definitely help, and by providing a different thing to do online than work meetings to prevent that burnout. Now, one of the things that I want to say is to summarize, as I mentioned, that the pandemic, in effect, has created tangible benefits for Toastmasters members that we would have never thought of probably 10 months ago. It has generated some interesting opportunities for Toastmasters Club to do something different than they were doing before. And it has also enhanced the value of Toastmasters Club to businesses and organizations. Now, as I wrap this up, one of the things I've always heard is that you should end your presentation with a bang. Well, I'm going to actually end mine with a boom. In this video I'm about to play, the Marine pulling the lanyard to fire the howitzer is my son. You will see him. He is the third person up the line on the right side, lean over to attach the lanyard just before the firing. So I think I'm finished now. If you have a question, I promise not to give my son the coordinates of your house as long as you don't ask too hard a question. Are there any questions at this point? Any questions? No questions?
John, did I hear you correctly when you said that club in Noblesville is a new start?
Yes, it just chartered in June. We had been working since last September to build up the numbers so that we had charter strengths, and we hit that about 2 months after the pandemic started. Got all the applications in and got the charter documents in at the end of May and officially chartered in June, and we are off and running right now.
I wanted to know more about the club that you do the mixers with. Is that another club that meets at the same time as your club, or do you all agree to go to a different club at a different time?
We actually meet with at the same time on the same night, which is 7 p.m. on Thursday night, as that club does. And so their meeting time coincides, which makes it very easy for them to just say, hey, instead of tonight dialing into our number, our Zoom link, dial into the other Zoom link and connect into their meeting. And then vice versa on the trade-off.
Are they actually physically close to you, or is it someplace
Well,
far away?
No, we are in Noblesville. Do you know where Noblesville is?
Yeah.
And they are in Zionsville, which is on the northwest side of it. They're physically probably 20 miles away, I would guess. So they're not too far. But we do know some of the people in common. In fact, they just started about a year ago, so we were actually picking their brains when we were getting our club chartered and trying to get it started. We had a lot of help from Cindy Garlock, who I believe is probably on this meeting tonight.
Thank you.
So
You're welcome.
So are you guys still meeting exclusively on Zoom, or have you started doing any hybrid meetings?
We are still meeting exclusively on Zoom at this point. We have started looking into hybrid meetings. We are not totally comfortable with the venue that we were thinking about using, and our club officers are actually investigating other venues that might be more appropriate for a hybrid type meeting. But we do plan to start as soon as possible.
Hey, John, do you have time to briefly go over what the improv session would look like?
Actually, Patty, are you online? I think she was online earlier. Let me see.
Yes, I am online, John.
Okay, Patty, since you were the founding genius of this idea, why don't you go ahead and explain that?
I actually was not the genius of this idea. So I used to belong to a Toastmaster group in Los Angeles that actually had some actors in it. And improv is a way to warm up for theater people and actors. And so they had an improv master at their Toastmaster club. There's two different ways you can do improv. One is a physicality, but there are also improv games that just require some creativity and voices. Because we were doing Zoom meetings, there are different improv games that are very suitable for doing on Zoom. Other improv games are more suitable to doing in person, but I have a whole folder of ideas of how you can apply an improv session, maybe perhaps instead of doing table topics. And we found that this way, if there's a lot of people in the meeting, that you can get a lot more people speaking and everybody having fun. And you know, the purpose of improv is to think off the cuff, just like table topics. And I always encourage people, especially those people who have to think and ruminate about what they're going to say next, is that the sillier you are, the stupider it is, the more fun it is. So it's really a great practice to get out of your head and just speak off the cuff and have some fun. And that's what we do when we do improv. If you're interested in learning more about it, I could certainly send you some games and so that you can try it in your club as well. I would encourage you to maybe in chat put your email if you're interested in having some suggestions for improv games that are suitable for Zoom, that are just spoken versus having physicality. And I will certainly share those with you.
Patty, it's Scott. If you could send those to me, I can forward those on to all of the area and division directors and district leaders.
Okay, I could do that.
And then they can help get those down to the clubs.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Sweet.
I have a question
Okay.
about the free pathway. I understand it's for current members, and is it definitely for a new member? If a new member comes on board, can they then get two pathways? Or, you know, what are the rules on that? Do you know?
Okay, I think I will pass this one to Scott or one of the key three.
So as far as the way that I read it, it was only for current members. It wasn't for new members joining. Jean, did you read it the same way that I did?
Yes, my understanding is that it is for current members who renew before December 31st. So if you happen to miss that October deadline to renew, or perhaps you have members who said, I'm not going to renew, this is an opportunity for them to renew their dues before December 31st and get a pathway.
And what about somebody that's reinstating maybe from a few years back? In other words, they're reinstating their membership, but they weren't recently a member.
So that I don't misspeak on that, let me double check, Margaret, and I can get back with you. Or I can post it. Yes, I'd rather double check than say yes and it not be true.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from anyone?
I've signed up for my free path.
Well, John, that was absolutely fantastic. If you can read it in all the chat messages, that what a well-received presentation, what a well-organized presentation. John, thank you so very much. Everyone, please give it up for John for a fantastic presentation tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a fantastic way to help get us engaged in some great ideas for helping to step out of our own heads and get into Toastmasters in a little bit of a different way. Thank you all very much. John, wonderful
Thank you
job.
so much. Thank you so much, Scott, and I'm very pleased to report I will not be giving anybody's coordinates to my son.
Very nice. We can all sleep a little bit more soundly tonight, knowing that John is not out to get anyone on the call tonight. John, thank you again. Thank you all very much. Did everyone have a good time tonight? Everyone enjoy your evening this evening? Yeah? I see a lot of smiles. I see a lot of clapping. I see a lot of thumbs up. Thank you all very much. I think that we come back tomorrow and we have, I believe, 2 more really good presentations tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that it is Patty and Gina tomorrow night. Patty and Gita tomorrow night. Patty, you and I can talk to a little bit later, probably tomorrow morning, about practicing for the rooms. And I'm looking forward to, again, to 2 more great sessions tomorrow. I think this is working out exceptionally well tonight. Thank you all very much for spending a couple evenings with us. We would love to keep this conversation going. I'm going to end the recording now. There's really no other reason for us to keep recording this.